The Sunday before Easter. I woke up about half an hour ago and I got out of bed and I ate a bag of what are they called? Wait, hang on. You know the mini eggs. I had a bag of mini eggs for breakfast. Yeah, I got them in my shopping yesterday. So I want to talk about the word Easter and how it connects with other words like estrogen, for example, or asteron, or ostara, or yastri, or whatever, and how it connect. Well, that's the thing. I was looking at I was looking on the internet. I was searching, and it was talking about esophagus and estrogen, how they're spelled OES. They start with the three letters OES. And the Latin word they're derived from is oestrus. And that has to do with a genus of gadflies, the species which deposits its larvae in the nasal cavities of sheep. And it's called Oestrus ovis. And then oestrus can mean a vehement desire. And it also says the periodical sexual impulse of animals. The period during which female animals are most receptive to males. Heat rut. So why would people call the death of Jesus Easter, do you think? Why would they call it Easter? Why not call it Norther or Souther or Wester or any other stupid name? So, I mean, this is the thing, the word Easter, so it says here, Eostri. Eostri is spelled E-O-S-T-R-E. Eostri is a West Germanic spring goddess. The name is reflected in Old English, Eastri, Ostara, Asteron. This is by way of the Germanic month bearing her name. She is the namesake of the festival of Easter in some languages. So, it's, why have that name put on the death of Jesus? Why would you do that? Because the world's evil. See, the world would rather that the death of Jesus was about animals having sex, or some spring goddess, some whore, some witch, some, make it as, I mean, that's what the world does. It takes something that is good and pollutes it, and tries to make it about evil stuff instead, and then tries to pretend that what they're worshipping isn't evil, and then say, but you can't say that's evil, blah 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 blah. But that's what the world does every single time. I mean, what is, for instance, what is mass? People, they go to mass, Yeah, for instance, they drink wine, then they eat the bread, right? So what's Christ Mass? Oh, that's the birth of Christ, is it? Like why why do people have to be so disgusting with their, why are people so disgusting with their words? Why do you think that is? Why do people twist words in such a way? You're making the birth of Jesus sound like the death of Jesus, and then the death of Jesus, you want to make it sound like you turn it into some pagan witchcraft, some you invent some name for some witch whore, you call her Easter spring goddess, yeah. I mean, it's the thing, right? I'm God. I've come back, and I've come back. I'm born again. Yeah, I'm born again. Yeah, you gotta be born again. Yeah, I've been born again. Yeah, I'm God here in the flesh. Yeah, and the fact is that people might think I've got low testosterone levels. They think my estrogen levels getting a bit too high. Is it? Well, that's the thing. You think about it. Estrogen. What's Easter then? Do you know what I mean? There's obviously a connection. Yeah. Estrogen, it flows in the blood, doesn't it? What happened at Easter then, huh? You gonna tell me what happened at Easter, did you? You gonna tell me what Easter's all about, huh? What's it about then? The blood? Yeah. See, man wants to decide where East is and where West is, right? Like, oh yeah, there's the East, there's the Far East, Asia. And then there's the West. Well, where the fuck is the West then? Do you know what I mean? Where's the center? Where's the north? Where's south? Do you know what I mean? How does any of that make any sense? How does that make sense? I thought East was a direct. Do you know what I mean? It's so confusing, isn't it? It's so confusing. I mean, I was born in the northeast. I lived in the southeast of England. I was born in northeast Scotland, I suppose. East Scotland, northeast Scotland, Aberdeen. I've lived in England. I've lived in the southwest. I've lived in the southeast. So what the fuck is Easter then, huh? Or what? Because you're Easter of me. If you're further east than me, does that make you God then? It was you who died on the cross, was it? Because you're Easter. You're Easter of me, are you? You're further east. Oh, I'm too far west, am I? Oh, sorry about that. I mean, that's the thing, people talk about Easter Sunday. You put the word Easter before the word Sunday. Yeah? As if Easter was the sun. Yeah, you know what the sun is, yeah? You see, the thing about the sun is, it's important, the star that's in the sky. People understand that the sun, S-U-N, sun, that if that did not exist, everyone would be dead. Okay? You'd be dead, your pet cat, your pet dog, your girlfriend, your whatever. Everyone's dead. Yeah, everyone's fucking dead. You understand? And so, that star, it may not be the brightest star in the universe. It might not be the biggest star in the universe. Is it the most important star in the universe? Probably. It's certainly at, as far as humans should be concerned, yeah. But, it shares some similarities. You see, I'm God. I'm the most important. Okay, I'm more important than, the sun that's in the sky. Yeah, that thing that, heats the planet, it makes your plants grow and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, that is very important. Yeah, it's very similar and important. It's very important. But I made it. I made that. Okay? And the fact was, I was Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm the one who said, I am the light of the world. You know what I hate when people, they can't seem to connect dots together very well, can they? You know, why did Jesus say, I'm the Son of Man, when he wasn't the Son of any man? Why would he say that? You know, he said, I'm the Son of Man. Yet, did Joseph impregnate Mary? No, he didn't. So why would he say, I'm the Son of Man? Does that make any sense? You know, why did Jesus say, I am the light of the world? Why would he say that as well? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would Jesus say those things, do you think? Because I was Jesus, I'm God. I have a power that is above and beyond anyone else. My words, my actions, my power. To explain these things would take a long time. Because it's not one, there isn't always one, it's, you can't explain them in one way. You have to look at it from every single angle. You know, there are so many explanations for them that there's a long list of them, by which time you would have switched off your computer. Yeah, because you don't care, probably. Anyway, it's interesting because, you know, the first time I heard people argue about, you know, what did Jesus really mean by Son of Man? Well, he wasn't the son of Joseph, okay? And then, you know, man has decided to call the star in the sky the sun, right? And then people say that Easter Sunday, you know, Easter Sunday, right? You put the word Easter before the word sun, as if the sun itself was called Easter. Yeah? You understand? You know, if you were standing in a line and I put someone before you, what would you think about it? Right? If you were standing in line and then I said, actually, I'm going to put someone in front of you, before you, yeah? You'd be offended, wouldn't you? You'd be annoyed. That's kind of like what the word, you know, when people say, well, that's the thing, right? You take the name of some witch, you know, false deity, right? Called Eostri, or whatever her fucking name is, right? And then you've attributed her to the sacrifice, the crucifixion of Jesus. It's not right, is it? You know, the Easter eggs, right? You know, then estrogen, you know? And people wonder why, you know, I have low testosterone, and, you know, it's actually happened, you know, why are there so many men struggling with their hormone levels? Why is that? Estrogen. Yeah? Magic words. Yeah, people, you know, I mean, you think why, you know, a lot of people, they don't want to clone humans, you know, they don't want to experiment with DNA, they don't want to, well, do you know what I mean? Like, you know that there's some things you just shouldn't mess around with, right? But what humans have already done that with their language, right? It's very hard to explain, right? I'm trying to get you to grasp the concept I've spoken about so many times in my videos. Words matter. Yeah, and we're not talking about mother, right? You know what matter means in, yeah, you know, what does matter mean in Latin? It means mother, right? So how is it that everything seems to be about female or woman, right? And then you got, you know, there's the Far Eastern cult called the Church of Almighty God, right? And they say God is a woman, and they call her him, he, right? Yang Xiang Bin, he, which is actually a woman, right? And they say that she is a female, he is a female. You know, I've explained that my dead mum, right, her name was Fee. See, man, the world keeps doing this to me. A man wants to worship, woman wants to worship false gods, whores. Yeah, that's what man does. Okay? He prefers to have some false deity, whore, bitch, instead of God, instead of me. And I'm telling you that everyone will be destroyed as a result of that type of thinking and that type of behavior. That is the path to destruction. You want to replace me with your false gods, then be destroyed. Okay, that's, what I've been explaining for a long time. I can't, how many more times do I have to say it? It's not fair, is it? Jesus gets crucified, dies, and people wanna say, oh no, someone else did it. It was Easter. It was let's put the label Easter on there. Yeah. And you can eat your chocolate Easter eggs and your chocolate bunny rabbits. Remember what I said about the word? Yeah, so, esophagus and estrogen, they come from the word oestrus. Estrus, oestrus. It's Oestrus. Right? It's about animal sex and a vehement desire, right? Estrogen, it's a lot of it has to do with hormones. Think about it. Think about the Far East, where, in China, would you say the Chinese, would you say that they have high levels of testosterone or lower levels of testosterone? It's an interesting thought, that, isn't it? People always talk about soy sauce, soy boy, soy. Well, the Asians, they like soy sauce, don't they? Yeah, you know what soy means in Spanish? It means I am. What a strange coincidence, huh? We're going round and round in circles here, aren't we? Anyway, this is probably the reason why I'm buying note-taking devices. I'm getting all kinds of... I'm going to write more notes. I think in the future when I make videos, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to plan out videos a little bit more. Just bullet point or, make a list of things I want to talk about and try to stick to it as much as possible, because otherwise I just, it's hard for me not to, because that's the thing, this is the problem. This is the, the story of the Tower of Babel is about the language and the confusion, the power is delivered through the word, right? And the words, it's like code. It's code. It's magic code. So you really have to study language to really understand how this all works. I've given so many examples, but the fact is that if words, you see, man wants to use his words to try to get himself to heaven, right? So languages were confused, but the thing is, languages have evolved, languages have changed, right? The Tower of Babel story, well, that was written in Hebrew, wasn't it? How many languages have we gone through since then? Yeah? How many? There's a lot. Yeah? A lot. And you know what? You know who Lot was? Do you know how many people was that? Was it one guy or was it a lot of people? Yeah? What are we talking about here? Why is language so strange when you really think about it? But the fact is you don't think about it because, and I'm generalizing here, most people don't think about it because they're demon. They're demons. Yeah, they're evil. Their ways are evil. They don't care about that. They won't acknowledge, they won't look at the thing that needs to be looked at because they're evil. They reject what I say because they won't look there. You know, I say, look, you want to find the answer, you know, the answer, you have to lift that rock. It's under, you know, but you won't look under it. You say, no, it's not. You're an idiot. You're a clown. I said, you know, for me, getting people to listen is so hard. I noticed I've got more subscribers than I've ever had before, actually. I've got 65 subscribers now, which it's the most I've ever had. And to be quite honest, I don't know who takes me seriously, and I don't know who doesn't. You know, I'm assuming the vast majority don't. Probably. You know, they probably just see me as some type of freak show. You know? Probably waiting to see if I die of cancer or something. Yeah, I mean, you know, well, if you want to know, I don't know if I have cancer. I don't think I do. And, yeah, I don't think I do. But I wouldn't actually, I've never, you know, I wouldn't even go to a doctor to find out. I wouldn't. What for? What for? Why would I want to know? If I did have cancer. You know, go to the witch doctor. Yeah, I mean, the fact is that, yeah, anyways, I'm not going down that path, okay? I'm not going to make that video about that. I'm not going to make this video about that, okay? Because I might say something that might get, you know, then there'll be a pointless making this video, okay? Excuse me, I got a bit of, yeah, I knew it was coming. So, I'm sorry if I seem vile. I don't actually, you know, this is the thing, right? People find it really hard to imagine that I'm God. Well, the fact is I am God. It doesn't matter how vile I am. You know, I could sit here and pick my nose. I could bite my fingernails. I could fart in the camera. I could do all sorts of weird shit if I wanted to. It doesn't change that I'm God, though, does it? It doesn't. I mean, the fact is, I've got every right to feel angry, mad. You know, I created you. Do you know what I mean? I created the world. I created you. I created everything. So, you know, nothing you know would exist. Everything you know would not exist if it weren't for me. Yeah. I'm entitled to do what I want, to say what I want. If I'm extremely angry and fed up with people, well, yeah. You know, it doesn't change who I am. You know, people keep thinking that, you know, God must be like Jesus. You know, well, let's think, I was Jesus. Like, I'm God, I was Jesus, okay? That's what, you know, 2,000 years ago, I was the one who's crucified. But obviously then, I did things a certain way. Now, you know, I showed people how, I gave people the example of how to be perfect. Yeah? What I'm doing now, I'm not showing you how to be perfect. Yeah, that was already done. I already did that. Okay, I showed the example. You were meant to follow that. And I am living my life how I am now, the way I am. And I'm very bored. You know, that's the thing. You know, I often think, you know, I was thinking to myself the other day, you know, maybe I should buy myself some nice clothes. Maybe I should, you know, work on, you know, like maybe I should, you know, I was looking at really fancy clothes actually. I started looking at some designer clothes. I never look at designer clothes. I was looking at things like Gucci and Emporio Armani, and I looked at what was it, Lacoste and different things, yeah. And I was thinking to myself, oh, wouldn't that be, I could spend money on this, I could spend money on that if I wanted to. And I thought to myself, yeah, but I spend all my time in the house anyway. I don't socialize with anybody. I bought several bottles of eau de toilette. I got myself some nice smelling things, right? And I thought, and well, at least I can enjoy it at home. I can spray it on myself, and I can smell it for myself, and I can enjoy it, right? But the fact is, I ain't going out to socialize with anybody. So tell me, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. What are manners? People have manners. So when they're around other people, people etiquette, behaving a certain way, right? And I realize I'm going totally off topic here, but the fact is that, if you spend 10 years by yourself, you stop caring about that stuff. Yeah? You stop caring about what other, you know what I mean? This is the thing. And I don't have any reason to, I'm not trying to impress anybody. You understand? I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not trying to impress with my manners. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but obviously demons will point their finger at me and they'll be like, oh, he's demonic, he's the devil, he's evil, he's this, he's that. While you want to go celebrate Easter. Yeah? I'm trying to say it's all about Jesus Christ. So, my last video, I called it, I am the lying whore spirit. Now think about it. If you think of a woman in this, the current year, 2025, or in the last, since the year 2000, right? Women like to go around, doing what they do, right? And, for a man, or for anyone to criticize that, and be like, yeah, but that kind of behavior, it's not good. What it says, it talks about, those who blaspheme the name of the Holy Spirit, right, will not be forgiven. Yeah? So, the Holy Spirit. What's a whole? What is a whole? What is a whole lie? Or a whole lie? Or lying whore? What's the difference? Is there a difference? Is there a difference? See, man can't seem to tell what the difference is. That's the thing. He can't. Man and woman, they don't seem to know what the difference is. And I tell you this, because it's important. It actually is important because words matter. Yeah? Are you telling me that words don't matter? So when you read the Gospel of John and it talks about the word, you're going to tell me that words don't matter. Right? And then you want to, what does matter mean? Yeah? What is matter? If you went to your garden, yeah, or you went to, you went and you picked up a handful of dirt in your hand, right? That's matter. That's soil. It could be soil, it could be shit, for all I know. But, it's matter. What's the matter? What is it that matters? And what is it that does not matter? Did you read your Bible? Did you hear what Jesus said? Is it the world that matters? Or is it the Spirit? Is it, are you supposed to put God first? Or are you supposed to put the world first? Why is it, where did this word matter come from? What's that all about? When people say that God matters, are they saying that God is important? Or are they saying that God is mother? Or are they saying that God is physical matter? What are we talking about? Do demons use that to their advantage, do you think? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah? When people, this is the thing. people often wonder, what is the name of God? Why does God keep changing his name? Why did God say, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain? Yeah, why so? Why has it been so awkward, do you think? Because that's what man and woman do. That's what that's what that's what the world does. The world wants to twist things. I've spoken about this so many times. In fact, it's pretty much all I ever talk about, is how these things work. So, it's the Sunday before Easter, or whatever you call it, huh? I mean, imagine, someone died for you so that you could live. But then, instead of giving them the credit, you want to try to give the credit to somebody else, right? You want to say someone else did it for you. How wonderful are they? Yeah, some false deity. You can't even seem to get that's the problem. That's the problem. I mean, obviously, you're not going to know that. Like a little child doesn't know that. You know what I mean? Like a little 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old child probably isn't going to know the origin of the word Easter, where it comes from, what it's all about, right? But at the same time, why is it when people understand these things that the origins of the word of Easter is pagan, yet you still keep calling it Easter, and you still keep eating chocolate eggs and chocolate bunnies and doing all this weird stuff, and trying to attribute that word to Jesus Christ, Easter. It's not right. It's not okay. It's wrong. You see, it's an attack against me is what it is. It's an attack against me. I mean, the way that my life has gone, I do have low testosterone. I probably do have high estrogen, yeah. I have all kinds of problems, and it's because of man and woman and all their babble. It's all their babble making things difficult for me. The words matter. I am the Word. I'm God. People, this is the thing. Imagine, right? Everyone in the world said that you would never be successful. Imagine everyone was talking about you behind your back, saying you're going to be a failure. You're going to be a loser. No one's ever going to like you. No one's ever going to want to marry you. No one's ever, you're never going to make any money. You're probably going to be homeless and this and that. People just constantly talk badly about you behind your back. Chances are your life is going to be very, very difficult, because words matter. You know what manifestation is, right? You know how people do things like repeated affirmations. They keep telling themselves that they're going to be successful. I'm 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 the best. I'm going to be successful. Blah, 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 blah. They're just constantly trying to use the power of words in order to they're trying to manifest what they want through the power of words. And the fact is, I'm God, and the world hates me, so it's always talking shit about me. So I have to contend with all that shit. all the time. And this is why the world's getting destroyed, because the vast majority of human beings don't like me. And so there's only one way this can go. It can't go any other way, can it? It can't go any other way. Yikes. Anyways. I kind of just wanted to have a conversation. I kind of just wanted to just have a... I woke up and I just felt like making a video and talking. So, what can I talk about? See if I can tone this down a little bit, because I'm starting to rant a little bit. But my name's Grant, right? My name's Grant, and the word rant, is in my name, right? It's part of my name, right? It's like I was born to rant. Go a bit mad. Strange that, huh? So I'll tell you what. Have a little look at the news. Honestly, I can't believe. So the headline on Daily Mail it's about celebrity Big Brother. I remember when I was a little boy and I watched the very first season, the very first show of Big Brother. I probably watched one, the second one, and maybe the third one. And that was it. I totally lost interest in Big Brother back then. I can't believe people still watch it. I hate it. I can't stand it. Like, who the hell watches that crap? Yikes. There's some really crazy drugs in the UK. All these people, it talks about. Yeah, people taking fentanyl and all kinds of other stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to think, like, when I was younger, I did a lot of drugs. But then I hear all these stories about people taking stuff these days, and it's like, it sounds really nasty. Yeah, it does. It sounds terrible. It sounds so freaking bad. Anyway, there's nothing really interesting in the news apart from that. Very boring. Very boring. So, I suppose the other thing I could talk about is, what's happening with Donald Trump and all the tariffs. And, yeah, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Excuse me. Yeah, it's very... I mean, for many, many years, I've I mean, if you go look at the index, right, you go look at some stock indices, okay, so the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right, for instance, those are American stock indices, okay, and look where they were in 2008, 2009, and look at where they are now. They've been going up and up and up and up and up and up. They've only been going up for more than for more than a decade and a half, for more than 16 years. They've been going up. So when are they coming down then? That's the question, right? So when are they supposed to be coming down? I mean, the thing about all this, the thing is with global trade, and obviously that China wants to do all the manufacturing for everybody, and do you know what I mean? It's a very bad system. It's a very, very bad system that has been put in place, and to fix all of that isn't going to be something that will happen in 90 days. You can't fix that in overnight. You can't fix that. That's like, and not to mention, you think about all the accumulated debt, all these problems. There's so many. Um, yeah, it's Donald Trump's really not. He isn't really. He's looking rather crazy these days, isn't he? I mean, his first term as president, he was very sort of, he was totally different. But now, it's this time around. He seems to be very. He seems to be making a real mess of things. He's making a real mess of things. And I'm happy. I'm happy that, when the global economy is in trouble, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy about that, because that means you might actually listen to me. Yeah? You might learn something from me. You might start taking me seriously. That's why I am, people wonder why. Well, this is the thing. I say, what is my power is destruction. I'm destroying the world. That's what I want to happen. I want the destruction of the world to keep happening. I want your life to fall apart. I want the people, that's the thing. I want, the people who will not listen to me. I want their lives to fall apart. Okay? I want it to be so that you get to survive by listening to me. That's what I want. That's the situation. That's actually what's happening. You listen to me, you survive. If you don't listen to me, you ain't gonna, that's how it has to be. The story of, God, I told Moses, I said, fashion a bronze serpent and put it on a bowl, so that if any of the Israelites are bitten by snakes, if they want to live, they have to look at the serpent on the pole. Okay, so that's the situation, right? Those who listen to me will survive. Those who don't won't. That's how it is. Okay. This is what's happening. That's how it's supposed to be. Obviously, it's an in progress thing. How many views do I get? How many people actually listen to me? Well, obviously, my channel, more and more people have to listen to me. But the world's still in trouble. The world is still in a lot of trouble, right? It's not. The world's problems are not going away. I'm still here. I'm the one still making video. I'm still telling you that the world has to listen to me. Okay? Things are going to get worse. Look how bad inflation is. Look how bad inflation is, right? I've got loads of money and I go shopping and I think to myself, wow, this, how much does £100 buy me? It's like barely anything at all. To be fair, I buy ready meals. I buy, I buy, ready-made, I buy pizzas. I buy, I buy tobacco. Tobacco is extremely expensive. Yeah, most of my shopping cost is probably tobacco. And I sometimes buy alcohol as well. So. But the fact is, everything's, things are so expensive, and it will keep going that way. That's not going, Anyway, I've already explained it, haven't I? I have. So, I'm getting my Remarkable Paper Pro next week, so hopefully that'll be nice. I'll probably make a video to show. Well, I might do. I know that I can, I could probably use my new tablets for making videos. I might see if I can do screen recording, and I can do writing on the screen. I can, I can perhaps, I can draw diagrams. I can try to show you concepts, ideas, to try to help you understand what it is that I'm talking about. Yeah, that's gonna take a while, so I'll see what I can do with that. I'll have a play around. I'll see what I can do with that. See if there's any, because I've often thought to myself, it'd be so easy when I'm trying to explain all these things if I had a whiteboard. If I had a whiteboard, I could just write on, so that you could see what it is that I'm talking about, because it can get a bit confusing to follow along with everything that I'm saying. And having a whiteboard is kind of fun, so, you know what I mean? Like, how does the teacher teach his class full of kids, How does he do it? Well, usually he has a whiteboard, right? Usually a teacher has a whiteboard or a blackboard, right? I mean, it's been quite a while since I was at school. So it's, do you know what I mean? I was reading, when I was looking for tablets to buy, I'm reading about all these kids that all want to buy tablets. It's crazy to think like all these kids go to school now and they're all going around with iPads and Android tablets and e-ink readers, Amazon Scribes and whatever it is, right? Who wants to have a notebook anymore? To get yourself one of these electronic pens and keep all your notes in one place. When I went to boarding school, I didn't even have internet. I went to boarding school. I had a dorm room. I had a hi-fi. I had a loud hi-fi so I could play my music on. I had a laptop, but with no internet connection. So I'd watch DVDs. I'd play computer games on my laptop. I'd do my homework. I'd listen to music. If I wanted internet, I'd have to find a computer room with internet access. And I didn't have, I had a basic mobile phone back then. There weren't smartphones back then, so. Anyways. I'm tired of getting old. And not feeling like I'm not getting anywhere. I mean, ultimately, the way things have been going, I'm watching the world fall apart. I'm watching the world get destroyed. And, yeah, I mean, I just wish there were more people who loved me. I just wish I could feel some love in my life before I die. Genuine love, real love. But I don't really see it happening. I really don't. And this is the thing, what can I tell you? What can I say to you to convince you that I am who I am? I'm God. I was Jesus Christ. What is it that I have, that's the thing, most people would say Jesus was brown, or Jesus, well, at the end of the day, it's stupid argument after stupid argument, and it doesn't ever go anywhere. It doesn't ever go anywhere. And you know, isn't it crazy though? So like ages ago, if you go back to when it was before, that there was that plane that went down. It was I can't remember where was it. It was the Shriners. There was the Shriners. There was like a Shriners hospital, and they had like a little girl from the Shriners hospital, and they had her on a Shriners plane, and the plane crashed, and they died. There was a plane crash before that as well, and back then I said, yeah, I said that there'd be another 10 plane crashes. How many have there been since then? Since then, do you know what I mean? Have you noticed how in the USA they seem to have a serious problem with aviation these days? Yet when I say, yeah, there's going to be another 10 plane crashes, is that what you want, folks? Is that what you want? Because you won't believe who I say I am. So I'm telling you, there's going to be another 10 plane crashes soon. Yeah? And then they happen. But when they happen, you still don't believe that I'm God. You still don't believe that my words that I speak are extremely powerful. And when I say something's going to happen like that, well, don't be surprised when it actually happens. Yeah? So why is it that this is never ever going anywhere? I've got so many examples. I mean, that's the reason why I did all of this. I did my social media. Yeah, I realized that what I posted on social media affected how the world behaves. So in a sense, I control the world through how I behave every day, how what I post or what I talk about, or what, I can make a video talking about various, whatever it is, and the world reacts to me. And, all I want you to do is recognize that's what's happening. When I went on X and I posted tons and tons and tons and tons of videos about, if you go, look, if you go to my X page, right, Twitter, X, my name's Grant Salvin. So if you go look there, you'll see that there's an enormous list. If you scroll down to back to when the Los Angeles fires happened, look at what I was posting. I had hundreds of videos of these bullshit videos that were on YouTube. It's all about this angel says this and this angel says that. Gabriel wants to say this and Gabriel wants to say that. Uriel has this to say and Ariel has this and Michael says this and blah 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 blah. It was all those types of videos. Just crappy stupid videos that I found on YouTube. Claiming there are 7 archangels and they all say different stuff, and we're just going to invent what they say so you can listen to it and talk, and believe like it's real, sort of thing. I posted hundreds of those videos before the Los Angeles fires happened. There's another example for you. Is that a minor thing that happened? What is a minor? If a child gets kidnapped, is that a minor thing? Is that nothing to worry about? Oh, well, don't worry about that. It's a minor thing. You understand how the demons are evil, yeah, and why the words are the way that they are, yeah. Oh, don't worry about it. It's a minor thing, yeah. And the demons, they're like, yeah, it's a minor thing. Who cares? The world you live in is very sick. You need to understand that. When Jesus said that the world is evil, what do you think he really meant? Well, it's what I'm telling you. Why is it, people are obsessed with getting high? Why are there some people who want to get stoned? Yeah? Why are there so many stoners? Yeah, stoners. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So you want to be a stoner? You want to get high? High as a kite? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are people obsessed? Why can't people put it? Why can't people just say no? Why can't they say no to that? Why is it? I mean, you got people who think that Jesus smoked weed and did magic mushrooms and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of crazy. I mean, just search on the internet; it's all over the place. Do you know what I mean? There's all sorts of people who've got all kinds of stories. They make all kinds of assumptions and blah blah blah. People trying to justify the things that they do, and so on. So, what do you do for Easter? Easter. Well, that's the thing, right? Where I live in England, right? I live in England, the southwest of England. So what's east of where I live then? So there's London, there's Brighton, there's the southeast of England, then there's France, there's Belgium, there's the entirety of the rest of Europe. That's all east of me, isn't it? Yeah, that's east of me, and there's Rome. Yeah, Rome's east as well. Yeah. Seen that film with Bruce Lee, The Way of the Dragon? Yeah, the guy from the Far East, The Way of the Dragon. He goes to Rome, yeah, to go protect that Chinese restaurant in Rome. Easter. So, I don't really know what else to say. Hang on. So, I've mentioned in my video, that, I'm not worried about whether I live or die. I have to be like that because of the situation. I mean, the situation is that, well, I've already got, the world doesn't give me anything to live for. That's the thing, right? The world will, if I went out and I tried to make friends with people, it would be, they'd be backstabbing me, talking shit about me before, that will happen. They will try to steal power from me, they'll try to touch my cloak to absorb my power. Yeah, that's what the world does to me, right? The world always wants to try and bleed me dry. So the reason I isolate myself is it's to conserve my power more than anything else. But the thing is that I look at a world where people are obsessed with people don't want to die. That's the thing. I look at a world of people who they're afraid of death. They're afraid of dying. You know what Jesus said? Yeah, Jesus said, those who are willing to lose their lives will find their lives. Right? If you're willing to lose your life for him, for Jesus, you will find your life. So I get to live my life how I want to live it, right? So I get to live my life like I could do what I want, right? I'm God. I'm entitled to do that. I mean, for other people, people who, if I feel someone has earned, if I, do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, those who really love me will be rewarded. Like, those who were willing to, lose their life, to give up their life for Jesus, will find their life, right? So, they will be rewarded in heaven. You know, that's something people seem to, but people, the world, you look at the world, and the world's just obsessed with doing what it wants to do, right? But, they're trying to hold on to what they want. They won't let go of it. But that's how you lose it. That's how you lose what you want. Because you put that before God. You put that before Jesus. So that's really important. It's important to understand that. Now, I've explained this so many times before. Adam and Eve, they put what they wanted before God, without any concern about how God felt about that. Me, how I felt about that. Yeah, they wanted to be God. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. When they were told, I told them specifically not to do that. That's what the world does. The world follows that example of Adam and Eve. That's what the world does. That is the world. That is the story of the world. And I've told people, don't do that. You need to break away from that. You need to stop doing that. Maybe you're a person who likes to go to parties. You like to, you've done all sorts of stuff. But, at the end of the day, all right, all those things that you know what I mean? Like, what's more important, that or God? Well, I know I'm God. I am more important than all of that. You wouldn't have that if it weren't for me. Right? You wouldn't even be able to do that if it weren't for me. So therefore, I am more important. Right? I'm the creator. I created you. You wouldn't exist if it weren't for me. So it's an easy answer. It's an easy question to answer. But why is it the world rejects that? They reject that, don't they? Anyway. I have to say, I'm not really looking forward to the the 4-day weekend next weekend. I don't like bank holidays. Bank holy days. Yeah, the bank is. What I mean? This is the thing, right? What's a holiday? A holy day? I'm going on a holy day. Yeah. I can't remember the last time I went on a holy day. Yeah, I mean, it depends what you mean by that, of course. But, I would like to go traveling. I have to say, it's, I don't really, traveling by myself, it takes the fun out of it, really. Do you know what I mean? It becomes, I think, well, I could go traveling by myself, and the idea of it kind of bores me, if I'm being honest. I get bored of the idea very quickly. See, the world is, it really likes to take all the fun out of my life, while it has the fun. So do you think it's fair that I, God, get to destroy the world that does that to me? Should I not be the one who's having a good time? Should I be the one who's celebrated? Should I be the one... Should I? I'm God, so should I not be the one who is celebrated by people and loved? Then why is that not happening? Why is that not happening? Look at the world. Look at what the world does. Do you see people who love God, or do you see people who love themselves and put themselves before God? What do you see? Do you see people who are willing to give up their lives? Are you seeing people who are following in the steps of Jesus? Are you seeing people who are putting God first and what God wants first? Or are you seeing people who put what they want first? Right? I mean, this is the thing, man wants to pretend that he's God, and then he wants to pretend that he's doing what God wants. Yeah? Yeah. That's what the world is. That's what the world does. It wants to think that it's God. Why else would you call the death of Jesus Easter? Yeah? Why? Why at Christmas, when you write a Christmas card, do you write XMAS? Yeah? Like you don't know who's X? Who's that? Who's Chris? Christmas? Christmas? Who's that? And who the fuck is Santa Claus? The thing is that I'm God, right? So this is the thing. I have desires. I have this life that I'm living. Well, I get to, I've been with women. I've had sex. I've done all kinds of stuff. But the fact is that I'm allowed. Why can't people understand? That's, So the parable of the 10 virgins, right? So what's that all about then? Why the parable? Do people expect when Jesus comes back to want to have, when God returns, yeah? Does God want to have sex? How many people do you ever hear talk about God wanting to have sex? Isn't it strange though when, well, you shouldn't watch porn, but when I've watched porn, and I do, I'll admit it, you hear them go, Jesus Christ, or, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah? Yeah, that's the normal thing. Why do they say that? Why do they say that, do you think? Yeah? You will see him coming in the clouds. Yeah. Merry XXXmas. Yeah. I made a video the other day, yesterday, a very short news. I said, I am Iron Mike Tyson t-shirt. So the thing is, when I was younger, I had a Mike Tyson t-shirt. There was an Australian guy who I'd lived with for a while. And when he went back to Australia, he left a t-shirt behind. And it was his t-shirt. It was a Mike Tyson t-shirt. So I kept it. And back then, I used to iron my clothes. I don't iron my clothes anymore. I put them in the wash and I take them out. I don't really see the point in ironing my clothes. But this is the thing, right? I'm the one who ironed the t-shirt, the Mike Tyson t-shirt. So I am Iron Mike Tyson in that sense. You see, this is how demons try to trap me. They try to trap me. So if I iron a Mike Tyson t-shirt, they try to pretend that I'm Mike Tyson. You understand? They say, no, he's not God, it's Mike Tyson. Yeah? Iron Mike Tyson. See how that works? This is why I have to isolate myself from people. This is why I have to keep away from people, because that's the shit they try to do to me. And not to mention, well, my dead mom. Yeah, she probably ironed that t-shirt as well. Yeah, she ironed that t-shirt for me. Yeah, she did. Probably. Because when I was young, she would quite often come to my flat where I used to live, my council flat. And, and if the place was a mess, she would help me, get things organised. Well, in scripture, right? I can't remember, how does it go? It was, like when someone gives you something, right? Like if your parent gives you something, that's the thing. When people give me something, when people help me, that's the thing. The world, when people who are evil, they can give me things. They might give me a gift. They might give me they might give me something, but they're constantly handing me snakes. Is what they're doing. They're constantly trying to give me a snake, a curse. That's the problem. You either fall on one side of the fence or the other. You either love me, or you don't. If you don't love me, everything you do for me, everything you try to do to help, all you're doing is handing me a snake. That's what you're doing. Or a scorpion, right? You know the story, right? I hope. But that's the thing. You're one way or the other. You're either switched on or you're switched off. Okay? And the world is switched off. So, the trade war, the trade tariffs and all this stuff. Yeah, I don't think this thing's going to end very well. Donald Trump has made an arse of himself. Since he's got, him and Elon Musk, they are like a pair of clowns. Okay, and now, who's he affecting by, if he wants to put up all those tariffs, right? Who's he affecting, right? You think about all the businesses, you think of the manufacturers that are actually in the USA, or, where do they get all their parts from? They might do manufacturing, but a lot of their parts that they import, for their manufacturing, they import them from China. You know, it's a total mess. It's a total mess. That's the thing. It's a huge mess. And who's going to pay the bill? Who can afford to pay for all that? You know, what are going to be the effects of that? You know, that's the thing, right? You know, if you put up the cost of living for people who are struggling with their bills already, you know, they can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their credit card bills, right? And then you're going to put up the price on everything. Well, how the fuck are they going to go? You know, eventually they're just what's going to happen? You know, there's going to be a knock-on effect, right? I mean, it's not good. The fact is that people never should have done business with China, really. I mean, they're a communist country for a start. So you should just cross them straight off the list and say, no. You know, that's how it should have been. That's how it should have been, really. People should have said, nope. I mean, you know, they persecute people, they put people into labor camps, they torture people to death, all kinds of stuff, right? That's China. That's what China's like. And you want to do business with them? You want to wear clothes from China? You want to buy all your stuff from China? It's not a good thing, is it? It's not smart. It wasn't a smart move getting them to do all the manufacturing. And what's it like in this country or in the USA, for instance? You know, everyone wants to go to university. Everyone wants to have a degree. Yeah, I didn't go to university. I probably should have gone to university. Yeah, I probably should have. I mean, you know, I'm a high IQ. You know, I'm like 130. Probably 135, something like that, right? You know, I think that's probably. Do you know what I mean? Like, I went to very expensive schools. You know, I didn't go to university. Yeah. I struggled a lot when I was young because I didn't have a degree. I mean, now I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. You know, I have no interest in going to university now. Why the hell would I? But the fact is that, you know, when I was younger, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. I'm sure I would have liked going to university. Well, perhaps. You know, while everyone was going to university, I was off my nut. I was drinking and doing drugs every day, pretty much. That's what I was doing when I was a teenager and in my 20s, my early 20s. That's all I ever did. I was looking for the next high all the time and trying to stop myself from drowning, you know, stop myself from sinking any lower at the same time. Trying to keep my head above water. You know, my mum put me in that position. My mum tried to destroy my life. She tried to keep me in a position where she could control me. That's what she did to me. She was trying to hold on to me and manipulate me and control me and try to have me rely on her. While the entire world was taking her side, yeah, treating her like she was good. Well, I was getting shafted. Yeah, I was getting totally screwed. But she's dead now. Yeah? So, the choice is you either join me or you join her. Right? That's basically the way the world's going, right? So the world doesn't believe that I'm God. If you want to be the world, that's your choice. That is your choice. Don't let me stop you. Huh? Don't let me stop you. I mean, this is the thing. I don't have any friends. I don't have anyone I could call up and say, hey, how's it going? You having a nice day? Nobody. And it's been that way for many, many years. It's been that way for a long time. And that's how it's going to stay. Until, that's how it is. Okay? I can live without worldly people. Okay? I don't want anything to do with worldly people. Okay? All I want to do is ruin their lives. That's basically all I want to do to them. Yeah? If I hadn't made that clear already. That's justice. It is justice, don't you think? I mean, this is the thing, see, the world loves what it loves, right? And my justice, I get to take all the stuff that they want, I get to take that out of their hands and take it from myself. And I expect them to feel very bitter about that. That's not, I want to rub their faces in it. Do you not think that's fair? Do you not think does that sound wrong to you? Does that sound wrong? Or does that sound plausible? Does that sound plausible to you? And those who love me will get to join me in doing that, right? They'll be part of that plan as well. Yeah? I couldn't tell you exactly how that's going to happen, but, that's basically those who love me will support me in what I do, will understand what it means for me to get justice. The world wants to put what it wants before me. So I take it. I take that, Jesus Christ was crucified. Yeah, he took the sins of the world on himself. He paid the price. He took those sins. I was Jesus. I took those sins. You understand? I paid the price for them. I paid the price for your sins. Yeah? And people were given the option to follow in the steps of Jesus, right? Follow the example of Jesus. And you were told that you'd be rewarded in heaven for that. How hard is it to understand? See, man needs to realize that only God can give him what he wants. Only God is the path to true happiness, right? Only through Jesus Christ can you attain real happiness. Any other way doesn't work. Any other way is bullshit. You're fooling yourselves. Sorry this video has been so random, but... well, that's the thing, I haven't really been making videos much. So... yeah. So, what else can I say? Cough, cough. It's looking very serious, what's happening in the world. I mean, the trade tariffs, where's this all going? Where's it all going? What, the financial system, right? So, is that falling apart? Is that falling apart now? Maybe in a year's time, maybe you'll find that your grocery shopping, your supermarket, you find that everything is double what it is today. Maybe you'll find that you'll have half as money. You'll have half, you know what I mean? Like, or could be World War III. You might be sent off to war. Perhaps. All kinds of stuff, right? All kinds of things. Do you care enough? Do you care? Do you want it? What do you want? What do you want? I tell you, these bad things are happening. They will happen. They're continuing to happen. Things will get worse. The situation is escalating, it's going to get very bad. I get to sit comfortably, okay? I get to have plenty of money. I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to. I've got a house. I've got a car. I can afford food. I can afford to pay my bills. And I can sit and I can look at the world. I can analyze. I can see what's happening with it. And I can tell you exactly what I think. Every single day if I want to. Reminding you who I am and what you need to do. Until I get through to you. Until you understand what it is I need from you. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind being on a beach somewhere. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I'm getting bored of being surrounded by garbage. I'm tired of not seeing sunlight. I'm tired of being here. So, yeah. Maybe I could find somewhere, maybe, could I go somewhere for a month? Maybe I'll try and book somewhere for the end of summer. End of summer? End of summer? I don't know. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind spending a month somewhere nice. Where could I go? What about the Maldives or something like that? Imagine me spending a month in the Maldives. Just lying on the beach. I could have my tablet with me. Could make videos every day. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Nice change of scenery, huh? Would you like that? Tell you what, I'd like that. Might be a bit expensive though. I've got plenty of money, I could do it if I wanted to. Yeah. It's a thought. I could probably find somewhere more suitable. Somewhere else a bit more suitable, I think. But I don't know. I'm happy I've got 65 subscribers. You know, I kind of understand that probably most people don't like me. They don't really accept what it is that I say. But, you know, the fact is that the more people listen to me, the more people who talk about me, even if they do hate me, you know, you know, I'm hoping it leads somewhere good. I'm hoping. You know, I mean, if I got 100,000 subscribers, and everybody, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, people need to hear what I have to say. I want people to hear what it is that I'm saying through my videos that I create, that I make, that I record. The destruction of the world is happening. I'm God. My voice needs to be heard. That's very simple, isn't it? I am causing destruction and I want people to listen to me. Because if you don't listen to me, well, the world, this is how it is happening. Nothing else will happen. Right? The world's being destroyed and people have a choice to either listen to me or not. And that's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else happening. That's really how it is. You know, people who say, oh, Jesus, he's coming on a cloud. Yes, this is a cloud, right? What do you call a cloud? What's a cloud? You tell me, what is a cloud? What is it? Or is it what you decide it is on the day that you want, that's the thing, right? You want to tell me what a cloud is, right? You want to say an internet. You say the internet is a cloud. You want to say smoking. Well, that's a cloud of smoke or whatever, right? And then you want to say there are clouds in the sky. So if I asked you, what is this cloud that Jesus is supposedly coming on? Yeah? You want to tell me exactly what that cloud is. You want to tell me what type of cloud that is. Okay? But when Jesus said, I am the light of the world, I am the Son of Man, what did Jesus mean then? What was he talking about? Isn't it interesting? The word soul. Yeah, soul. You wear, there's the sole of the foot. There's the sole of, you wear a shoe. Sole of the shoe. Shoe soles. Yeah, the soul of man. There's a DJ producer called Soul of Man, actually. But anyway. But what does soul mean? Well, soul is the Latin word for sun. S-U-N. You know what Sol Invictus is, yeah? for instance, this, right? Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus. I mean, imagine, you impregnate a woman, right? And then she has a boy. She has a baby boy. That's the son. That's your son. Did she give birth to the star that's in the sky? Is that what she gave birth to? She gave birth to the sun that's in the sky. That star that is so important to your everyday life. Yeah. Is that what she gave birth to? Or did she give birth to a boy? Do people know the difference? What is this babble all about? What's it about? Have you figured it out yet? Are you capable of figuring out what this babble is all about? Yeah, it's interesting. What Jesus said, you have to be born again. But the fact is, I know there are certain people who are mentioned in the Bible. Abraham, King David, Paul. Well, I've known them in this life. Like I've met them. The people who have been, Paul was a guy I used to call friend. A guy I used to hang out with, a guy I used to go clubbing with. Abraham is my uncle-in-law. King David is my cousin. They are, technically speaking, they are born again. But they're evil. They are evil. So someone who's labeled born again doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person. Right? You have to understand that there's a difference. What was Jesus talking about? He didn't mean that you have to die and then come back as another person in another body. That's not what Jesus meant by being born again. What Jesus meant was that the old you has to die. The person that you used to be, the evil one that you are, that has to die. And you have to be born again. You have to love God. You have to change. You have to deny yourself. You have to tell yourself that you're not God and put God first. That means me through Jesus Christ. Right? You have to follow the steps of Jesus Christ. And that doesn't mean going to Israel and wandering around and, pretending like you're walking the same path as Jesus. People do that, don't they? They go on a tour to Israel, and they go down that road, don't they? They go down. Oh yeah, Jesus walked down here. We're gonna walk down here as well. We're following the footsteps of Jesus. That's not the same thing, is it? No. You have. See, people try to cheat their way. Yeah? People want to try to cheat their way to heaven. You can't. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need to realize that's what human beings do. They want to cheat. They want to cheat their way to getting what they want. And you have to recognize that in yourself. You need to understand that, you need to stop yourself from doing those things. You need to recognize it for what it is. Well, this video's been a bit long, I think. Yeah, I just felt like saying whatever. I saw a news article about the so the Chinese they wanted to open an embassy in London, and they had like dungeons. They had like a prison dungeon underneath the embassy, and apparently Keir Starmer has approved it. Now, apparently it was rejected by the former government, the previous government, and now Keir Starmer, he's approving it. I mean, there have already been talks about the Chinese in London kidnapping people and holding them prisoner and stuff like that. I've heard stories about that before, actually. Yeah, strange that, huh? I mean, think about the situation as well with car manufacturers, that all these car manufacturers are struggling because, people keep saying that, well, probably most people are going to be buying Chinese cars in the future because they'll be cheaper. Do you want to drive around in a Chinese car? I don't. I'd probably drive in anything except a Chinese car. There's a really quite an interesting channel on YouTube. It's called China Uncensored. I've been watching that for many years, and I used to watch it a lot more in the past than I do now. But I watched a few of their videos recently, and I tell you, it really does. It's bizarre. It's bizarre learning about China and all the crazy stuff that they do over there, and how they prop up their markets. And there was one video, it was mentioning about their loans. So their loan system. So businesses that get their loans, well, that's the thing. If the businesses are willing to, if they cooperate closely with the CCP, the government of China, then they get loans easily. So it's very corrupt. Basically, the the Communist Party of China will basically it bullies people. It bullies people. You either comply with what they want, and then you can get whatever they will reward you for for doing what they want. That's the thing. They're trying to be God. The Chinese government wants to play God with people, and yeah, it's a horrible system. It's a very evil country. Do you want to live in a country like that? Where they can tell you that if you believe something that they say is illegal, they'll put you in a dungeon. They'll hang you up by handcuffs and beat you to death and torture you. Is that the kind of country you want to live in? The world. That's the way that the world wants. The world is going that way. That's the world. Cannot survive without me. On God, you cannot survive without me. Eventually, the world destroys itself, bit by bit, because everyone wants to be good. See, all people of the world care about power. That's what they care about. They want. They're godless. They deny me, and they want to be God. And where does it lead? Yeah. Nowhere good. Anyways, I haven't got anything else to say, so I'm going to leave it there.